Okay. Okay, welcome to our scholarship and bursary webinar. Let me just change my display here. There we go. That should be better for you guys. By the Pagan Board of Education, Post-Secondary Department. Currently, that's just me. If you have any questions, please send them in the chat. You can just type them down as they come to you, and at the end, I will answer them in order. Also, there's a door prize. To be entered, you have to stick around for the entirety of the presentation. That's a $50 Walmart gift card. There's a couple of them. So I'll try not to take up too much of your time and try to get through this in an hour, but I won't rush. I've been told that I tend to rush through these things. So, but it is a school night, so if there's any school age individuals that attended, I'll try to have it done as quick as I can. Just a quick definition, so we can all be on the same page for our terminology. I'll use the term scholarship for any payment or grant awarded to a student in support of their academic endeavors. So this would include, but it's not limited to the term scholarship, bursary, sponsorship, stipend, grant, award, etc. Of course, my computer is a little slow. I'll just enlighten you on why it is in the interest of some to award scholarships. Companies and organizations and even individuals have numerous, mostly good reasons to give out a scholarship. They would invest in what's called the public good. Societies that contain higher educated individuals on average tend to be better off in most metrics. They do it for recruiting reasons, investing in talent that the company can benefit off of in the future. It can also be a form of professional development. Some scholarships are research-based. They're centered around, finding a solution to a problem. Tech companies, ag companies, pharmaceutical, or even government organizations sometimes base a scholarship or a grant on researching the problem. It could be much cheaper than paying researchers in-house or paying a research firm. They also corporations value the positive light that a scholarship can shed on their image. And sometimes the very existence of an organization would be to dole out these scholarship dollars. PBOE PSE is partially based on this premise. Inspire is another organization that you hear of. Sometimes a student will receive a full athletic scholarship if they're recruited for school athletics. And finally, probably the biggest reason that no one will admit for the existence of private sector scholarships is the tax breaks the companies receive in giving back. I listed these reasons so as a student, you can approach these scholarships with the mindset that it's a mutually beneficial transaction. You shouldn't feel that you are inconveniencing anybody. Apply to as much as possible. Of course, that's not to say that you should feel entitled to the money, but no, you should come at these scholarships with more confidence. As I go along, you'll find a lot of this information on these slides will weave into and overlap with each other. This slide covers the types of organizations that give out scholarships. Post-secondary schools and some high schools and school divisions will administer scholarships themselves. These are usually funded by alumni and corporate partners. Sometimes it's just easier for the people and the companies just to give the school the money and let them deal with the scholarship. The U of L, for instance, as a department, awards department that they deal with 300 to 400 scholarships running year round. And the Lethbridge College has about 200 plus, just to sort of give you a scope of the magnitude that they're dealing with. As mentioned earlier, positive PR points are highly valued by corporations. When a corporation is administering their own scholarship in-house, they achieve a couple of things. They gain positive PR, they get free marketing as the applicant needs to go to their website for website traffic, and possibly networking for future employees. And the last version is nonprofit. Charities, government agencies like PBOE, PSE, Inspire, Student Life Network. Yeah, there's organizations like this all over that are not-for-profit. Okay, so every scholarship has their own criteria, usually derived from the reason for the scholarship. Applicants are weeded out only to include the eligible individuals. I would not let this deter you, however, from applying regardless, because you never know. So once the applicant is filtered, the applicant list is filtered to only include the eligible individuals. A selection is then made, and this selection could be based on one or more of the following: acceptance into or graduation from, or even highest grades for achievement, the cost of a program, or perhaps the applicants who demonstrate the most needs, such as a single parent households or students who come from low income backgrounds. Some scholarships are just about giving everyone a fair chance, as it's usually set up so there's limited or no repeat recipients. There's first come, first serve, which is pretty self-explanatory. Finally, competition, like a robotics competition, coding, agricultural, or best essay. These are sorts of competitions you hear for determining a scholarship recipient. Just a quick housekeeping note, probably about 30 to 40 minutes in, we'll take a quick health break, so you don't have to feel like you are missing anything. So now for the most important slide, where to find scholarships. Every major public institution has some sort of page on their website which is dedicated to scholarships. And let's give a quick demo here with the U of L. Let me just hop on to Google and I'll share my screen for that. Share screen, okay. So you, if you go to a site like University of Lethbridge or University of Calgary, yeah, basically any public institution will have their page will have a link to find where their scholarships are. So there's two ways to go about finding them on their page. The main way is if you go into tabs for admissions, some of them will have, like the U of C, I believe they have a tab for current students or prospective students. You can also click that too. But for U of L, you click on admissions and there'll be a tab here. It says tuition and funding. Again, yeah, most of these websites are very similar in how they're set up. They're designed to make it easy for the user to find something like scholarships and awards. So under undergraduate, you'll see scholarships and awards, and I'll take you to their page. And yeah, so like I said, they have like 300 to 400 different scholarships, and they broke it down here into the major 5 categories they have: high school awards, transfer awards, Indigenous students, School of Graduate Studies, external awards. So you can just click any one of these and it'll show, sometimes they'll show the individual scholarships you can find, and sometimes sometimes they'll just show a brief description of what you could be eligible for, or links to other places where you can find scholarships. But and also most schools will have a central database where you just apply for a scholarship through them, and then their awards department, if they have an awards department, they will filter your name to all these different scholarships where you may be eligible for. So that's the U of L. We can take a quick peek at Lethbridge College. I'm sure most of you get the picture here, but just want to give a quick, yeah, so current students, future students. You can scroll down and look maybe, but usually if you click, I believe the U of C is also this format where it says future students and current students. And there'll be somewhere here where you could find their awards page. I didn't mention the second way to find the awards page. So if you're having trouble just scrolling through here, right here, Alberta Financial Student Awards, here's their awards page for Lethbridge College. Sorry, one more link. Awards and scholarships. There we go. Here's their awards page for Lethbridge College. I kind of got off track there. The second way to find out where their awards page is, if you're having trouble navigating through here, you can always just hit the search function and literally type in scholarships or bursaries or student awards, and it will spit out, see, something like this. And again, it takes you back to the page we were on. So that's how that is done. And again, most schools are like that. Let's go back to the PowerPoint presentation. There we go. Okay, so you can also use corporate websites like ADCO, Suncor, Canada Post, etc. Now, sorry. You can use a search engine like Google. Facebook actually is a pretty powerful search engine too now. They have a lot of data on their website. Probably any major social media site you can search, as well as Google, Bing, DuckDuckGo, those types you can search. I can just give you a quick demo. It says here, if you just Google a company and any and followed by scholarship, you'll have a pretty good chance of finding something like. And if you're kind of short on companies to find, I can. Sorry, let's go to this page. So let's go to Google here, and there are literally companies all over, right? So if you go into your Google search engine or whatever, you can search like Microsoft scholarship, for instance, right there, scholarship program. It'll take you to their page, and it says right here eligibility, and usually there's a deadline, how much you would get, stuff like that. Yeah, most big companies, you can find a scholarship. Just to get at a big tech, we'll go into Suncor. We'll go into oil and gas, right? Suncor. Oh, here's a scholarship. There's a scholarship. Yeah, it's gold. If it's on their own website, you know it's legit. So, yeah, that's another way to find scholarships is going to the company themselves, their own webpage, and or just Googling them or searching them in Facebook, you'll find a company that company name with scholarship or bursary, and you'll be quite pleased with what you find. So that's a good way to find some. There's also sites like Scholarships Canada. Now you got to be careful and make sure that you're going to the right one. There is one Scholarships Canada site that actually gives out malware, so be sure you're going to the legitimate site. If the web page is looking, like there's a lot of ads, or if there's if it's looking outdated, you might be on the wrong website and getting malware on your computer, and you don't want that. But a good thing about Scholarships Canada is they direct you to scholarships all over Canada. You just have to input your info, and they'll filter you in to all these different sites where you can apply. Student Life Network also might be helpful. There's also some apps in the App Store that may be helpful. There's still a lot in development, but I haven't found any for Canada yet that are worthwhile. But in the States, they have an app called Going Merry Scholarships. That's a really great app. It's a shame that it's only available for US students. That's a really good app to filter and find scholarships. I would encourage you all to go out and look for yourselves in the App Store, Google or Apple Store, to find you might find an app that is helpful like that. For Indigenous students that are attending this webinar, I believe that's everyone here. ISC, Indigenous Services Canada, they have their own portal for scholarships and bursaries, and it's updated annually, broken down by field of study and region. I suppose we can probably, I could give a quick demo on that. Let me just, okay. So if we go to, we just copy this link here. Copy, or we can even, this will, here we go. Okay, let me go stop share this. And I'll show you the screen that came up when I threw that in my browser. Okay, here it is, the bursaries tool for Indigenous students. This is broken down by the name of the scholarship, the province or territory. Sometimes it's ran through a school, also the field of study and which type of people. Some of them are all Aboriginal. Some of them are just Métis or First Nation. And they'll give it, most of them will give a deadline. But this is pretty good. There's quite a bit on here. And yeah, they're always trying to recruit companies and organizations to post their scholarship onto the site. Yeah, so that's how that is done. I will return to the PowerPoint here. And switch my display. There we go. Filling out applications. Some of this may seem like common sense, but you'd be surprised how often someone has trouble. Let's get my laser pointer here. Be truthful. Plagiarism and fraud are some very serious offenses that could ruin your future if you commit them. You will be caught sometime down the road, so Yes, be truthful. It's very important. With that being said, do not feel that you need to give more information than what is required. For instance, your SIN number, never give out unless it's explicitly asked for. And even at that, I would inquire as to why they need it. And if the reason is valid and you're assured that your SIN number will be protected, then I guess it's up to you. Another example would be like your transcripts. Most times you just your marks, your current marks would suffice. And I would really hesitate on submitting your transcripts unless they're explicitly asked for. Make sure your contact information is up to date. Something that's going to be constant for the next year or so, at least. We encounter this problem a lot at PBOE. Students will give a cell number or an email that they no longer use when we're trying to contact them. So that becomes difficult. For high school students and parents in the audience, do not use your high school email address to apply for some of these things. When you graduate from high school, you lose access to that email account. I know this because we get high school applicants all the time that use their email address, and when we try to contact them in July or August, they're not getting any of our emails because once they graduate in June, they actually lose access to that. So age 13, I believe, is when students are allowed to have an email address with parental supervision. So set up an email for applying to scholarships. You should actually have several email accounts. Actually, one for social or personal. You can have one for business, like scholarships and jobs, and then you can have one for like subscriptions, like Netflix, or if you're shopping, like Sport Check or something. Yeah, it'd be pretty helpful to have several email addresses for different purposes. This next point is a pretty common reason why students don't apply for much scholarships. Make sure you know how to, or you have access to all the potential info and documents that may be asked of when applying. I know when I was in high school, I didn't know my mailing address until my senior year. This is because there's no need for me to know it. I didn't have any mail. For the Indigenous students, your status card, try to keep that card up to date. It is the quickest way to verify your ancestry when applying to Indigenous focused scholarships. Alberta student number, ASN, that's an important one. You'll need that when trying to access your high school transcripts. I can just give a quick tutorial on how that's done because it's one of the main things I help students with, or potential applicants. I'll just give a quick demo on that. Okay. Share screen. Okay, so we go to it's a site called MyPass. So if you go into MyPass, this is where you could access your transcripts or your diploma. There'll be this blue button here that says sign in with an education account. So you just hit that. And if you've never used this site before, you'll have to enter in an email address you're going to use for this site. And then you'd hit I'm new, sign me up, I'm not a robot. Then you'd click this green button. And what happens then is they'll send you an email with a link to it to activate your account. You go into your email, obviously, and you'll click that. You'll click that link, and it'll set up your account and it'll take you back to a new page. Sorry, and then you can continue setting up your account. So I'll just show you quick here. Sign in. Okay, and so once you kind of get going, You're not actually all the way in yet, but you managed to create an account. You'll come to this page, and they just have 3 little questions here. You are, if you're a student, or if you're a parent or guardian or other, let's say you're a school counselor or something like that. Always hit the student. If you're accessing it for yourself, always hit the student, and then you'll have to punch in your Alberta student number here and your date of birth. And you just need those 3 things. If you don't know your Alberta student number, you can get it from your report card. And if that's a long time ago for you, your high school report card, you can get your Alberta student number by going to Googling another site called Learner Registry. And if you went to school in Alberta, you can just hit look up ASN. You just have to fill out another couple stuff here through the Alberta government site. It says, I certify I am the named individual, I accept. Then you'll have to give your legal last name, first name, middle name, your date of birth, and your gender. I am not a robot. Then you hit search. And then what happens then is your Alberta student number will come up right here in black letters. I don't know if it's an 8-digit or 10-digit number, but anyways, it'll come up right here. So you take that number and you go back to the MyPass, throw that in here, and then you'll try to activate it. You'll get the access will be denied if it's your first time. And what you have to do is you have to call in to their IT section, and they'll verify who you are and give your email access to your MyPass account, because this is extremely confidential stuff, right? I'm not going to go through this process here to show you, because once you try to activate connection, it needs you to fill out these stuff, right? So, but usually if it's your first time, it'll direct you to call them, and it's called MyPass Help Desk. So if you're trying to contact them, they have a, they took me back here. I'm just trying to get to the phone number. There's a phone number that you can call. Oh, here it is. I believe they're open till 5 on weekdays and closed on weekends. But yeah, you just call this number, and you'll be on hold for about 2 minutes, maybe 5 minutes tops. You usually get through pretty quick. They're not too busy. And then someone on the other side will answer, and you just tell them that you're trying to access MyPass, and you need to verify your email address. And so they'll start asking you a series of questions to verify your identity. They'll start with the email address that you provided. They'll want to verify that with you. They'll want your Alberta student number, your date of birth, obviously your legal name, and then they'll ask you stuff like, where did you last, what school did you go to grade 12 in or graduate from? Or they'll ask what year you went to grade 12 in or you graduated from. They might ask your postal code, either your current one or the postal code you had when you graduated from high school. And then at that point, they'll make sure you're on this page, and then they'll get you to activate your connection. Click that button, and on their end, they'll authorize you, and then you'll be allowed in. I'll just show you quick how it should look once you're in there. MyPass. I'll just log in with myself. Sorry, this Zoom bar is in my way. Sign out. Okay, I'll just show you how quick how it looks with. I'll stop share here because it's kind of confidential. I'm gonna sign in with mine, and you could see. Okay, share screen. Share. There you go. Okay, so this is how it looks when you're logged in. You can look at your high school transcripts, or you can look at your diploma or your certificate you got when you were in high school. Or you can look at your diploma exam results or PAT results. That's pretty cool. And you can even print them or send them in. There'll be unofficial transcripts. If you need to order official transcripts or an official diploma or certificate, that's these blue boxes. There might be a small fee associated with the printing cost. It might be like $10 or something. But yeah, if you need your transcript or your diploma, you can order them. But if an unofficial is good, you can use these in the brown here. And this other stuff is just personal information. So I will stop share there and go back to the PowerPoint. So if you're saving your info, make sure it's kept private. Identity theft is a lot more common than you think. Also, save your passwords in a safe place, not in your head. They need to be remembered. And don't use the same password for everything or the same variation. You don't have to use password 1, password 2, password 3. You should have make pretty significant changes to every important password you need to keep. Finally, have a clear understanding of the question. You're filling out an application form. This is not an exam where you're restricted access to resources. If you're not sure what the exact name of your program is, ask or look it up. Don't just jot down, teaching degree if your program is called Bachelor of Education, right? If you have no clue what your student income is, let's say they're asking that, ask around. Sometimes the best source is to try to ask someone from within the organization that's administering the scholarship. They'd be able to answer most clearly on what they want you to put there for a particular field or answer. So the cool thing about these skills you learn when applying for scholarships is they can be applied to a lot of other tasks in life. Like references, you'll find a lot of scholarships require some sort of reference when applying. It's like applying for a job, applying for an apartment or a house, applying for scholarships. They all require the skill and know-how to gain references or reference letters. You obtain these by asking your teacher or professor, your coach, your boss, someone else in the community that you spend time with, and try to avoid having family or peers write your letter. You want to have you want to make sure you're getting a source that's a lot more subjective than what your family would be. And remember, you're asking for a personal letter of reference, and it's a pretty considerable favor. People are busy, and although most would love to do so, you're taking time out of their lives, right? To have them write that letter for you. So give them the tools and conditions to make it easy for them, like giving them a proper time frame, no last minute requests. Asking for a reference letter on Friday for a deadline of Monday is a huge no-no. I would say that at least a month would be the minimum time to give them. Ideally, you're giving them 3 to 4, 6 months sometimes. And always try to give your references a deadline before the actual deadline, just in case of their tardiness. You don't want to put any unnecessary stress on yourself or your relationship with them. Make sure to have a clear idea make sure they have a clear idea of what they're working with. Inform them on what the reference letter is for, how long it needs to be, when you need it by, etc. If at all possible, try to get them to write a generalized letter that could be used for multiple applications. if you're applying to 10, 20 different scholarships a year, you're going to have a hard time obtaining 20 unique reference letters, no matter how connected you are. So you'll want to build up a nice little roster of reference letters to use for up to 1 to 2 years. Another skill that's needed for life is writing or writing letters or essays. Some scholarships and most job applications require some form of written component that accompanies the scholarship or the application, I should say. On this task, once again, you'll need to be clear on what's being requested. There are letters that are informative, and then there are letters where you're trying to sell yourself, where a little more subjective rhetoric is required. Be aware of the difference so you're not giving a huge spiel about your personal struggles when only a quick little summary is needed. You don't want to give them any reason to, ignore your application. Look up subjective and objective in the dictionary as it pertains to writing. The scholarship application won't actively use these words when describing the assignment. Rather, they would use terms like summarize your goals and dreams, or explain why you should be selected for this scholarship. So at that point, it's up to you to know what type of writing material you'll need to draft. Ensure that you're respecting the lengths and the format that's being requested in the outline, single space, double space, size 12 font, Times New Roman, etc. And get your peers or teachers, professors, someone thoroughly read through your draft. Another set of eyes will see something you won't if there's a glaring mistake or if your writing isn't clear. Use a computer. That should almost go without saying in this day and age, unless they explicitly ask for handwritten. And don't be afraid to use every trick and service in the book. Most colleges and universities have a writing center where they can assist you. And the cost is usually baked into your fees, so you pay for it anyways. And so that the writing center is not just for assignments and stuff, but it's also for reference letters. Scholarship essays or resume writing. The writing center will also help you with something like that. I would caution when using websites like Grammarly or Chegg or those type of sites. They could be super helpful at first, but ensure that there won't be any plagiarism or intellectual property issues before submitting any work to them. Okay, so you'll want to build up your eligibility portfolio. Make yourself a tough candidate to turn down. Volunteer and become active in your local community or student community. You'll want to establish some sort of rapport with any of your instructors or supervisors, coaches, just to have someone in there that knows you. And now, this doesn't mean you need to suck up to the authority figures in your life, but if you're respectful and engaged in your activity, it will make it 10 times easier on your anxiety when you need to ask them for a reference letter or something of that sort. All this to say, the most important thing is to do your best in your schoolwork. If you don't have time to volunteer because you gotta take care of your grandparents or your infant daughter, or you need to work when you're not in school because you need to shore up some of the cost that comes with being a student, all that stuff that is golden on your application, right? So they will tend to discount the volunteer hours if that's what's taking up your time alternatively. So don't prioritize these secondary points over your education. They're only suggested to set yourself apart from other students that are similar in your situation. So we're about 42 minutes in. I'll just take a quick house break here. At 2 minutes time, we'll say 2.5 minutes. So at 8:45, I'll continue on. I'm just gonna take this opportunity to jot down all the names for the door prize at the end. Okay. Welcome back. Um, we are more than halfway done this presentation. So continuing on here, sorry. Here are some other helpful tips. Apply to as many as possible. You'll find your scholarships improve after each submission. Even if your application is late or not eligible, apply anyways, because some years the scholarships will have few to no applicants. If they're an organization that needs to expend their budgeted dollars but have no applicants, then having your name in their database as a student seeking scholarships will only help your cause. It's like the old adage of luck occurring when preparation meets opportunity. Save your material in a central, secure location. Having them on file for yourself will speed up the process in the future when applying to other scholarships or the same scholarship in a different year. Another helpful hint is for the Apple phone users in the audience, you can actually scan your documents to your Notes app if you don't have access to a scanner. So if you go to your Notes app and use your camera, you could actually scan a document with your phone. Other smartphones may have this or similar capability. I don't know for sure, but I imagine they would. These companies tend to follow each other in their abilities. So I'm just going to take the next couple of slides to give a brief explanation on how our sponsorship process works here at PBOE Post-Secondary. It's for the next 5 or 6 slides. I'll just rip through these. If you're already a student with us, this will seem like something you've seen already before, because you probably have at any rate. So we get dollars from Indigenous Services Canada for post-secondary. There are 2 programs that are very similar to each other. The Post-Secondary Student Support Program, denoted PSSSP for short, and the University College and Entrance Preparation Program, denoted USEP for short. The PSSSP is for college and university diploma and degree programs that are at least 2 years of full-time study, at least. Sometimes they're 3, 4, 5, 6 years. This would entail most standard programs you come across at these schools. USEP is for adult upgrading. I'll touch on the specifics in a couple of slides. The funding we receive does not sufficiently meet the needs of the community. Therefore, we have developed policies and procedures to adjudicate the dollars in an equitable fashion to ensure fairness to all. We have 2 sets of rules that need to be followed. Our in-house policies and procedures, which have been developed and refined over 30 years from trustees and employees. And then we have the ISC national guidelines, which change only slightly from year to year. Applicants are prioritized based on a few parameters: previous sponsorship experience with the program, how long ago they graduated high school, which program they are studying, and a few others. These groupings that are based on priorities are then sorted by date within that priority. Newest going at the bottom and oldest going at the top for the application date. And that's when it's received by our office, not when it's submitted. This used to be a bigger deal when more students submitted in person or mailed in, but now that with email, it's not much of an issue, because as soon as they email it, it's time-stamped. And then if we have multiple applications in the same priority and the same date of reception, then they're then again sorted by most recent grades, with the highest grades coming first. The next slide will have a little illustration on that. This shows each priority group we have. The first group here denoted is priority 1A. That's all our currently sponsored students. These are the students that we sponsor the previous semester and that they've met all the conditions for continual sponsorship. They're essentially guaranteed sponsorship. The first one's at the money. The next group we have here is the first new students we add to the program. They're denoted priority 1B. So as of 2019, first year out of high school students are not considered for sponsorship if they apply. But the following 2 years after that initial year, they have to wait. Should you apply, your application would be prioritized in this group here near the top of the sponsorship list. To give an example of this, applicants for September 2023 sponsorship that are graduating this June 2023 will not be considered. However, 2022 and 2021 high school graduates would be put in this bracket. And if you graduate high school before, then you'll go into a later file down here. So 1C is any applicant that's graduated from their adult upgrading or transition year program, and they're transitioning into their selected post-secondary program. And obviously they did their adult upgrading or transition year on their own dime or had another source of fund that they weren't currently sponsored by us at the time. 1D is for any student within the last year that was sponsored and left the program, took some time off for medical reasons, mental health, maternity leave, and then they reapply. And upon their application being submitted, they are placed in this category, 1D. Priority 2 is for any mature student that is more than 3 years removed from high school with no previous sponsorship experience with PBOE. So speaking to this again, if you graduated in 2020, this year 2020s would be in priority 2, not priority 1B. And anybody older than that too, as long as they weren't sponsored before. You can apply before, you can apply as many times as you want. And if you weren't ever sponsored, you'd always be placed in this priority 2. The next priority is for any student who was previously sponsored by PBOE. Priority 4 is any student applying for adult upgrading. And finally, priority 5 is for late applications and students who are returning from suspension from our program. So it depends on how many dollars we get and how many applicants we have. Sometimes we get to about here, guaranteed. These guys will all get a letter of sponsorship. But as we start going down, depending on how many applicants we have again, somewhere in this 2 and 3 priority, we'll start sending out waitlist letters and sometimes decline letters. And then as we get into the 3, 4, 5, depending on the year again, unfortunately, we do end up sending out some decline letters just because there's no way we'd be able to get to their name before the semester starts. And then a new application cycle begins. So that's how that goes. To be eligible for sponsorship for our program, you need to be enlisted on the Beginning Nation membership list for the last 3 years prior to applying. You'll need to be enrolled in school when sponsored, not necessarily when applying, however. So I would encourage you to apply early, even if you are on the fence about returning to school or you're not yet enrolled. Apply anyways, and you can fill out that part at a later time. Bill C-31 applicants are referred to the appropriate agency. I made this Venn diagram to illustrate just how similar these two programs are. They both need to be at an accredited institution that has a transfer agreement with other institutions at the provincial, state, or national credit and transfer authority, depending on where the school is. This is a requirement for all public institutions in Canada, and some private schools also adhere to this. The school of choice also needs to be On the approved institution by ISC, they have a list of Canadian and American institutions on their website that are eligible for sponsorship. So schools that fit this criteria are like the University of Lethbridge College, Olds College, basically any major public school in Canada, St. Mary's University, U of A, UBC, Simon Fraser, right? And some First Nation-based colleges also fit in here, like Blue Quills, like Red Crow College, Old Sun. And then some examples of schools that do not fit in this criteria are Sundance College, Ambrose University. Yeah, it's unfortunate, but they don't fit. The program or class must have a regular start and end date. So September or January, May in some special cases. So the differences are as such. I already touched on most of this in the previous slides. PSSSP must be at least 2 years of full-time study and finish with an accredited and widely recognized diploma or degree. And usually high school diploma being the normal prerequisite for entry. USEP or adult upgrading needs to be a class or classes that are high school equivalent or dual credit that contribute to the eligibility of a post-secondary program. So if like you're trying to get your GED, well, that in itself is lends itself to increasing your eligibility for entering into a post-secondary program. So that would also fall into here too. And a lot of this, these words here, these points are taken word for word right from our policy. So you can follow up with that if you like. We have 2 intake periods over the year. Other nations only have one, like Sixiga, for instance. I believe they just have one September start date. We have 2. June 15th is the deadline for fall intake, which is a September start date. And we have October 15th for winter applications, which is a January start date. You can start the application process by filling out an application form and submit it to our office. The best method, as I mentioned earlier, is to email because it's time-stamped when it's sent, so there could be no dispute or worry about losing it. We then send you an email confirmation that we received your application and give further instruction or a timeline of when you can expect an official response to your application. There's a boatload of other documents that also need to be submitted to complete the process, but those can be submitted at a later time. We actually send you a letter that has a list of all these documents you need to submit. The application itself is all that's needed, though, to initiate the process. Excuse me. You can get the application process. You can get applications at our office, or we can email you one upon request. There's also a fillable form available on our website. I'll just give a quick demo here again. Go back to my share screen. Okay, so if you go to our website, which is begunny.ca, not begunnynation.ca, but begunny.ca. And then you go to the top banner here, there's a tab called post-secondary. You can either click post-secondary forums, or you can just click the tab itself for post-secondary. And then you scroll way to the bottom of the page. You'll see downloaded forms right here, PSE application for funding. So here's our form that's fillable. You can actually, type in stuff. And you can save it, and then you can either print it to sign at a later date and submit, or you can, if you have your electronic signature handy, you could put it on here. Yeah, our application form is pretty straightforward, but if you have any questions about any of this, like for instance, family number, and position for your treaty number. That's just your middle 5 digits, your family number, and then the last 2 digits are your position in the family. Um, for most of the younger students, it'll always be 0, 1. Your birth date, legal last name, gender, have you been on the membership list for the last 3 years? Mailing address, contact information, I should say. This is important. You'll make sure that you have at least a good phone number and email we can reach you at. Yeah, and the rest of this is pretty straightforward. We ask about employment because it affects your sponsorship. So finally, what we actually are able to help with when I say sponsorship, we give full-time students a monthly living allowance for expenses in the months they are in school. So if you're on summer break from May to August, you would not get a living allowance at that time. Tuition, we pay directly to your school, and we don't pay application fees, unfortunately. So that's something to keep in mind when applying for school. You'll have to pay for that yourself. Tuition deposit, though, you'd have to pay that up front, but keep your receipt and you can submit that for reimbursement. Again, we pay that directly to the school for tuition payments. We give money for textbooks and supplies that are required in one small payment at the beginning of every semester. Then we also have, those are the major payments. We also have a lot of other little expenses that we can help students with, like travel, exam fees, tutor fees, etc. So each student sponsorship is finite. Unfortunately, you can't be sponsored to go forever. And there is an annual cap on tuition. So we can, there's an annual cap on tuition that we can pay as well. So all of that is due to the fact that we only receive limited funding. So if your program is not eligible for PSSSP or USEP sponsorship, like a trade program, most of those are 2 years, but we don't cover trade programs, unfortunately. I'm just leaning closer into my computer so we can speak lower. Certificate programs also, and other sponsorship programs that aren't eligible. You can find info on the Government of Alberta site. Just search in the site for Indigenous skills and training. You can inquire with these different offices for their possible sponsorship or any sort of help. Their funding models may be completely different from what ours is. So I'd encourage you to inquire with them about your specific program if we happen to turn you away. I listed their phone numbers here. Beginning Employment Services for on-reserve members. There's SAMIS for Lethbridge and Medicine Hat area. When you're searching SAMIS, be sure to Google SAMIS training. There's a funeral home, I believe, that's also goes under SAMIS. So you want to go to SAMIS training to find that site. There's Aboriginal Futures in Calgary and OT Now Employment and Training at Edmonton. And also Blackfoot Confederacy. They may or may not be able to assist you with any sort of cost. I didn't touch on this because they're not free. You will have to pay them back in the future. Ideally, if you're needing to access student loans to fund your education, then I have failed you and the system has failed you, because the role of my job and other organizations that I listed previously is to do everything we can so you won't need to use student loans. However, everyone's personal choice to utilize them or not. So here are 2 helpful links for Canadian and Alberta student loans. Quick point to remember, most institutions in Canada you cannot pay your tuition with a credit card. And this is because the existence of these loans, they have a much lower interest rate than credit cards. So that's why it's mandated. Something to keep in mind as tuition payments come due. I know most schools, it's February 1st. At the bottom here, we have the opposite of the student loans, which is the Registered Education Savings Plan. This is a tax shelter to save, where you can save your money for your or your kids' education. Any money made, like capital gains, dividends, whatever, made in this account is tax-free. And I believe you can open one anytime if you haven't already, until you were at the age of 35, I think. The link is attached, and I would encourage all to open one right now if you haven't, for you and your kids, to finance that cost. Additionally, any scholarships and stuff, scholarship monies you receive, you can throw them in here for when the time comes that you'll need it. Here are a few of the many scholarships that come across my desk and their respective deadlines. This is not all encompassing. There's a huge list, but these are just some of the more popular ones. Some of these are pretty, they're coming up, their deadlines in the near future. Inspire, they actually have 3 deadlines: February 1st, August 1st, and November 1st as deadlines for their bursaries, but the nearest one is February 1st. The CIBC scholarship is actually tomorrow. At the bottom here at the University.
Hey, JC, just a quick question. Shane McDougall here. Sorry for joining late here.
Oh, no worries.
I was in another Zoom class. Just a quick question on the CIB scholarship. I've been having a kind of a trouble accessing it. When you pull it up, it just goes to another academic institution.
Oh, really?
So, yeah. So I know a friend of mine sent me the link, but still, I'm just having trouble bringing that one up. I know that she said that last year no one applied for it, so it was moved over for another year.
Oh, no. Okay.
I think that's due today too.
Oh, okay. Excellent. Yeah, I'll play around with that. I don't actually have the link available at my disposal for that. Oh, actually, I might have it on the next slide. I'll see. Anyways,
I know Amber Strikes with the Gun. She's the one who sent me the link. She works with them, but like I said, just trouble accessing it. Just
okay.
Yeah, it puts me to another academic institution on the East Coast. So yeah,
that's so good.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll explore that. I'll do that maybe tonight because I know the deadline is it's listed as the 27th, which is tomorrow. Anyways, back to the as I was saying, the University of Lethbridge. They have 2 deadlines listed here. This March 15th is for the high school students in the audience. If you're applying for a scholarship with them, the deadline is March 15th. And for currently enrolled students, it's this date might change, but I think for the most part, it's December 15th every year. You submit your info to them, and then they put you in for several different scholarships. Here's some of the links right here, this first link. Let me try this link, Shane. I'll see if I'm just going to try this link here, and we'll see where it takes us. Let's see, open link. Okay, let me do it. Okay, it came up on my browser. I just want to show everyone what came up when I hit that link. So this is what came up. Commercial and Banking Wealth Management Scholarship. Now this is just a flyer. It's not actually an application form. There's instructions here. Again, this is pretty last minute for anybody to get that going, but I will send this flyer out to all our participants. And I mean, if you have time, I would encourage you to apply for it. But there's a flyer here. It's not an actual application, like I mentioned. It's just a flyer. But hopefully you don't run into the same issues that Shane did.
Yeah, that's the one I had, and I clicked on it, and it just like it just goes to I forget what the institution is, but yeah.
Okay. Okay. Continue on. Okay, we're near the end. This presentation, sorry, you guys are seeing my my cheat sheet. So this presentation, as I mentioned, will be made available on our website to view in the future. I don't know if anybody has any questions. If you're shy, you could reach out.
I have a question there, JC. Sorry.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I coming in late. I didn't hear all your information. Just a little bit about summer classes. Do you guys have anything for like? I'm planning to do a applied studies course abroad in Mexico. So I was wondering if you guys had anything to compensate that for a student.
Yeah, we do have something in our policy. It's just a small amount, but it's called a travel grant. I can send you some information if you like. But yeah, it's perfect for, just like what you said, students that will do a semester or maybe just a block course abroad. We do have a small amount. It's a small amount, but it's something that we can help.
Anything helps.
Absolutely.
Okay, thanks a lot, JC.
Yeah.
And if there's a door prize, sign me up.
Okay. So if there's no other, like I was going to say, if you're shy, you could, my contact info is all right here. And we do have 2 Facebook pages, Pagan Board of Education, that's all encompassing for the entire organization. And then we have a PBOE post-secondary Facebook page. And that's just something that I have access to. So if you throw a message on there, I'll respond. If you don't want to use these other forms to pose your question.